The issue of Epstein now has to be expanded beyond just simply Epstein and Trump when it comes to this administration. Now, of course, there were other people. There were letters from Clinton, and Clinton should immediately disclose anything connected to Epstein and himself, fully disclose it all. But when it comes to Donald Trump and this administration, Maxwell said to Trump's attorney when interviewed her that there is more than just Donald Trump's connection within her record of people who were interacting with Epstein. We already know that Epstein and RFK were together, so that's Donald Trump and RFK, but how many other people within the Trump administration had direct contact with Epstein? And she even goes as far as to say that it is foolish to believe that these people just simply were engaged in Epstein for, I don't know, charitable purposes. That no, they were there for like sexual stuff. This is what she says. So let's just go to Rachel Maddow and hear exactly what she said to Trump's attorney when he interviewed her before he decided to go to Club Fed. Thank you.
And Maxwell volunteered in this interview that there were multiple members of President Trump's cabinet who had been involved with child sex abuser Jeffrey Epstein. Now, in the interview, the president's lawyer, we can hear, it's on the tape. The president's lawyer hears her say that about multiple members of President Trump's cabinet, and he responds to her saying that by not asking anything about it.
Did I think these guys were coming for that? I really don't. If you met Epstein, there is no way that this cast of characters, of which it's extraordinary, some of you in your cabinet, who you value as your co-workers and you know, would be with him if he was a creep or because they wanted sexual favors. A man wants sexual favors, he will find that. They didn't have to come to Epstein for that. Now, did some... Okay, I don't know. I wasn't there. I didn't see it.
So... When's the last time you think you were with Mr. Epstein when he got a massage?
Now again, this is RFK Jr. saying he was on planes with RFK, but he tries to come up with this statement, right, that nobody knew that Epstein was a sex trafficker when he was on the plane. Let's go into this, and then we'll go in to a very key component of the recent email releases.
So to be clear, you're not concerned about anything that could come out about you and Jeffrey Epstein?
My plane rides with Jeffrey Epstein, I took 2 plane rides with him. Once in 1993, when I went down to visit my mother in Palm Beach. Remember, nobody knew about anything about Jeffrey Epstein's nefarious activities till 2006. So he was a public figure in...
It's extremely important to note when he talks about 1993, that at the time of 1993, that's when Trump, with at least Katie Johnson's testimony, that's when Katie Johnson said that she was assaulted on the 4 different times where Donald Trump paid to use her. That was the time in which Donald Trump was, at least according to Katie Johnson's testimony, paying Donald Trump to use Katie Johnson for his sexual pleasures. Next is like the emails that have now begun to come out. Inside of the emails is this really important factor. Epstein was engaging people beyond Maxwell to bring girls. You see, that's the thing that has always been odd. How do you get to 1,000 victims? You can't get to 1,000 victims on just Elaine Maxwell. That's a lot of work. So what Epstein does is what you're about to hear, is that Epstein engaged others and paid $10,000 or more a pop. And that's only the beginning of the story based on the data that has been released. So he's out there hiring girls while this time when RFK Jr. is on planes interacting with him, and Epstein is actively paying people to bring him girls. This included some rather unique situations. Of course, we haven't gone into more detail as to all the people who received checks from Epstein who brought him girls. But some of these people who participated in the $10,000 a pop gambit are very interesting.
Where people were coming to Epstein and offering women, girls, including fathers of some of the victims who were paid, according to a spreadsheet, $10,000, I guess, to have his prostitute out his daughter, his young daughter. Emails in this treasure trove between Epstein and others saying, you got to meet this young Russian college student because she will be able to get you other Russian girls or other girls that are in her school in New York. And Epstein says, send her over. Okay. So this theory that nobody, including Donald Trump, could have known that Jeffrey Epstein was a pedophile and went after girls has all been destroyed.
So now you get that people are essentially selling girls to Epstein at $10,000 a pop or more. People from all over the place. Now, we don't yet know the scope of that, or at least I don't know yet, but there's an email trove of what, 10 to 18,000 emails or whatever, like some 10,000 emails, which is basically the inbox of Epstein, is about looking into the people who were providing it. And that's where you need to find out. For example, like, were the executives who had access to, say, modeling agencies, Miss Teen USA, or other beauty pageants? Because each of those girls who do not win the pageant have, in Epstein's eyes, a dollar value of $10,000 or more dollars a pop. But then comes the birthday box about the fully depreciated girl being sold to Trump. The issue of fully depreciated is with Trump saying, you know, that he's like the smart guy when it comes to taxes. And the honest truth is, he is a brilliant man when it came to taxes. He was the guy that was out there telling different real estate people, come up with whatever number you want for the assessed value of your real estate. You can just go ahead and do that. Who cares? I remember, like, you know, in my efforts of trying to do things, that I ran into people who were sophisticated, who told me that that was one of the things that Trump preached. In fact, yeah, so this was sort of like, yeah, just declare the price, right? So you just go out there, you declare the price of the real estate. That was Byron Head who told me that. So as you're dealing with this issue of the selling of the girls, is that in our country there is a concept of the ability to sell depreciating assets of labor. It happens with football teams and baseball teams, which is part in which why football players, baseball players, professional athletes are paid so much, is because what the owners want are the depreciation that they can reduce their tax liability. Some people literally buy football teams or participate in investing into sports is because of the depreciating value of labor as it relates to sports players. The question of the depreciating value in the letter is, was Epstein further engaging people in the financial benefit of his business? He is paying people to bring him girls. Was he coming up with a tax strategy, or maybe Trump, in his brilliant tax mind, developed a tax strategy to turn the girls themselves into tax shelters? Which, of course, is kind of stupid because the law is pretty clear. Like, you can't depreciate cocaine. I cannot mobsters cannot depreciate, their men for committing crimes because likely they're going to go to prison or be killed, and so if I'm paying you and you're going to die, I can depreciate you. No, you can't gain a tax benefit from a criminal act. Like, for example, statutory rape, which is what Epstein was engaged in. So that's where this is like really big. And it's probably even the wiser strategy for Epstein trying to protect himself. Because it's one thing to protect yourself when you have people who are in a black book who have committed statutory rape because you're selling sex with underage girls. It's not just that they're Johns participating in prostitution, but they are participating in statutory rape. But if you engage them financially, benefiting by being involved, by a head count of $10,000 a girl or more, or the depreciation value of being $22,000, this makes them further engaged in his criminal act and making them more responsible to protecting him, and potentially the reason why he would ultimately just simply be killed while in prison. And who would kill him? Lots of people. Because the bigger issue is where the fault that happened with Donald Trump and Epstein. It wasn't that Trump was upset with Epstein selling sex with minors. No, he was financially benefiting. It was this $40 million house flip that Trump was doing. He bought a house for $40 million and flipped it to somebody else, and Epstein was saying that this was money laundering with basically the Russian mob. The Russian mob, or if there were mafiosos involved with Epstein, who were just there to have sex with the girls, these are areas where mobsters go to prison. You know, Capone got busted for tax fraud, and that was leading to everything else, right? It was the tax issue, but really that was like the doorway into having the books of all the crimes that Capone was engaged in. This would be one of those areas which could bring the feds to the mafia type people who were involved in flipping houses in Florida for $40 million, would probably kill him because he's the doorway to them, for the feds to get to them. So these are areas where we just need to pay attention to, and why Donald Trump needs to be removed, and why as a nation we need to push for ethical standards, minimal ethical standards, to be able to hold public office. That you can run for public office, but if you win, you have to pass the ethical test. And if you fail the ethical test, a special election is done, and a new person comes in. That can be, as I've believed, would be nothing much more than criminal background checks that everyone has. It's non-political. That is just simply, are you committing crimes? Are there areas where under standard criminal background checks for everyone else would prevent you from holding a job? And if that happens, you got to step aside, clear that up, or appeal the judgment that you that you are in violation of, like, a criminal background check, national security checks, that sort of thing. Basic, standard, universal, with appeals to make certain that politics did not play a role in the background check. That sort of thing. The 14th Amendment, Section 3, to make certain that 2/3 of the Congress, that if you have a problem, it takes 2/3 of the Congress to say that you're an ethical person, that you're willing to, work responsibly with the rest of the country to be able to get positive stuff done, and that you need 2/3 of the House and Senate to believe that you are an ethical person. You may disagree with me, but you will work with people like me on the other side of the aisle, or for me to work with you because you're on the other side of my position. That 2/3 says you are an honorable, you and I are in honorable disagreement, not unethical disagreement. We need to do this. We need to literally say that if you're a convicted felon, you don't get to hold public office. Freaking period. I don't care. You can appeal your conviction, but if you fail to appeal your conviction, the door's that way. Having basic ethical standards would eliminate anyone and everyone connected to Epstein. Right now, they would simply be gone. You're connected to child sex trafficking. Because the honest truth is, if you were doing a national security check, a person who is connected to child sex trafficking would not be able to remain in the military. They would step aside, a full investigation would be done, but likely it would be moral turpitude, and then you would be out. And the reason why you would be out is because being connected to illegal sex trafficking of minors, as being a John, or even potentially bringing girls for $10,000 a pop, you would be gone. They would not let you be there because you could be manipulated. You could be purchased. You could be leveraged by people who have those records. Donald Trump must be removed, period. And anyone who is remotely connected to Epstein, serving at any level of government, the door is that way. And that's what it takes to have an ethical and moral society. And what stops political violence? Because people become violent against politics mainly because they believe that the government has become so immoral that they've got to do something violent. Where if you had moral and ethical standards, minimum basic moral ethical standards, it reduces violence. This is why I hope you will join me in this effort to demand there to be basic moral and ethical standards in order to hold office. That if you get the vote, and even if you get the vote, you got to pass the test, pass the ethical standard. If you don't pass the ethical standard, there is a special election to replace you. Simple. That it isn't up to Congress to say a person should be there or not be there, that it's a simple ethical standard. And if you violate the standard, out you go, and it doesn't matter right or left. Because we know, and history has shown us, that highly unethical and highly illegal people participating in crimes on whatever our quote side is will be kept there because our quote side wants to have the illegal and immoral and unethical jerk to remain there because he's one more vote or she is one more vote. No, you just have a basic moral and ethical standard that applies evenly to both sides. And then if you violate it, you're done. Simple. That's how we get there. And Trump has got to go. Because no colonel or general or anyone holding rank in the military would be allowed to survive being this well connected to Epstein. They would be removed from their position. So like, share, and subscribe. Please join me in this effort. Let's get to work. Thank you.